If you ever struggled with a picky eater, felt boxed in by the chicken nugget culture, or just want to raise a curious, open-hearted little human, this episode's for you. Today's guests are the creative duo behind Kalamata's Kitchen, a movement that's sparking kids' curiosity with food and culture. What started as a kid's book has grown into a full-blown brand, inspiring families to explore the world through taste, storytelling, and empathy. In this episode, Sarah and Derek share how their passion for food and storytelling turned into a mission to raise more empathetic, curious kids, one bite at a time. They talk about raising adventurous eaters, the surprising science behind kids' taste buds, and why introducing anchovies and stinky cheese early might just be parenting gold. You'll also hear about their taste bud pledge, how parenting sparked a whole new level of bravery in their lives, and how their mission is just as much for parents as it is for kids. So let's get into it.
Okay, Derek and Sarah, thank you for coming on to the Roamaroo podcast. We are so pumped to have you here.
Thank you for having us. We're excited.
Yeah, we're really excited about it as well.
This is our first time doing a podcast together, by the way. It's usually just one or the other.
Oh,
This
interesting. Well, you have both created this amazing, I'll call it a movement. It's, it's more than just books in Kalamata's Kitchen, where you're really like cooking up curiosity with kids. And I think, as parents and travelers, we really love that intersection of food and parenthood and travel. And you just meet us there. Like, how did this concept come to creation?
I'll let Derek take it away.
Well, it started, I'll kick it off by saying that it started for me when I was actually working in a corporate environment that I now describe to people as kryptonite to creativity. It wasn't exactly like the type of place where great ideas were born and fostered and diversity was celebrated, all of these things, which is what I cared most about. So the environment was really actually pretty toxic and discriminatory in a lot of ways. And I think that I was learning a lot, the environment that I didn't want to be a part of. And that can be a really sort of a powerful thing, is learning what you don't want to be, in the example of what you aspire to work against. And at that time, I was searching for inspiration in my life and something that I thought would be a really positive example to my son. And I was watching an episode of Chef's Table one evening, and it was season 2, episode 1, featuring Grant Achatz from Alinea in Chicago. And I was realizing as I watched this episode what traveling the world through food adventures meant to me, and how when I would go to a place, whether it's a neighborhood over or a continent over, how I would learn about people and their stories and their traditions and their culture and the things that were super important to them through the food that they ate. And as I'm watching this episode, I was thinking, well, if I could get my son to recognize that at 4 years old, when it took me until I was like 24 years old to even get a hint of it, then I would help him to become a more empathetic person earlier in life. So the idea was to get him excited, we'd create a character. And that all happened while I was watching Chef's Table. And I always tell people that my recommendation is, when you have an idea that you think is the greatest idea you've ever had, the next thing you should do is call the smartest person you know, which is what I did. And I called Sarah, my great friend Sarah, and I'll let her sort of say how her background was perfect for this concept.
Yeah, well, thanks, Derek. I mean, it was like the best phone call of my life. So, for some background for me, I grew up in rural Western Pennsylvania. My parents are South Indian immigrants. And my cultural identity was often very much at odds with my surroundings. And, food for me was just centered to my being and my life and my culture and my family. And, my house always smelled amazing. And I loved everything my mom cooked, and we traveled for food. We were lucky enough to get to do that. We're all a family obsessed with food. But I had to basically hide all of that when I was in school, and I had to hide my culture. I was trying to assimilate as much as possible. Kids made fun of my food, even though I thought, again, it was the best in the world. And when Derek told me this idea, I just remember thinking how much it would have meant to me to have a character that made me feel really proud of my culture and my food and want to share it instead of hide it. And also, maybe more importantly, what it might have meant for the kids around me to have a character that was different from them, but that they saw as this cool, adventurous friend that they wanted to know more about, instead of this weird, icky, different thing that they wanted to make fun of. So that was the immediate powerful thing for me. And then Derek also, at the time I was working in fine dining. I'm a sommelier by trade. I'd been in restaurants for years. I was working at a really nice restaurant, but I was looking for my next step. My background's in literature. I love working with kids. I love food and drink and tasting and teaching and creating experiences for people. So Derek, when he says he had that idea and made like a great phone call, like he literally drew a circle around everything I loved and was like, "Do you want your dream job?" And like, yes, the answer is yes. And we just saw such an opportunity to reach children and families, and create these meaningful experiences for them, in every space where food exists, which is basically every space, and for the lessons that can be taught through food to carry out into their lives, in ways that transcend any one table or kitchen or dining experience.
I mean, the way that kids just latch onto characters and want to do and be those characters, that is the best way to get them to try things and do things. And I love what you guys have done and how you educate through storytelling. It's just a fascinating journey, because it's also tackling what seems to be probably one of the biggest headaches for parents.
Yes.
And so I love it. So
thank you.
And I think representation, like you're talking about representation there, something that you didn't have as a child. And so when I find that so often when we talk to entrepreneurs and creators, they were missing whatever that product was. They were searching for it in their lives at some point. And it sounds like, Sarah, for you as a child, you missed that representation. You needed it and you wanted it. And here you are creating it for the next generation. Like, how beautiful is that?
Thank you. I mean, it's very meaningful for me. The first time I read the first book, that one of our self-published books, to a classroom, there was a little girl of Indian descent in the class. And I remember, I was trying to introduce Kalamata to the class, and I was like, "This is my friend Kalamata." And the little girl said, "Oh, she looks just like you." And I looked at Kalamata and I looked at her and I said, "Actually, I think she looks just like you." And she just, her eyes went like this, and like, she was just wrapped with attention. And like, how hard it is to hold a 5-year-old's attention. And she was so into it. And she was like, "Did you hear that? Did you hear that? She looks like me." And like, I had to hold it together. And like, until we made it to the parking lot afterwards. And then I was like crying and calling my mom, because, that's 30 odd years later from when I was a kid. And it was the first time she had that represented too. I didn't realize that like it was still kind of the same environment that little girl was growing up in, that I did. And that really hit me, pretty personally.
So what's the current status of your guys' endeavor? Because last time we spoke, you had a lot of things moving forward with Kalamata. Can you kind of give us what you can share and what you can't share? What you guys are working on?
Sure. Well, to Sarah's point, from the minute one of this idea, it's always been a big idea. And early on, I remember as entrepreneurs, people would tell us, "You're doing too much. There's too many layers to this." And our answer would be, "You're welcome." Because we always saw it as like multifaceted. We always saw it as a lifestyle brand. So we launched via the book series, which Sarah is the author of, and Joe Cosmidas Edwards is the illustrator of. And that was the flagship of our content. That was the way to introduce this character-based world to families. So we have our published content. We have our digital content, which includes social media and our website. And that's our opportunity to sort of represent our point of view, but also feature the stories of some of our chef heroes. Sarah and I, we sort of bonded. A lot of people ask us how we know each other. I actually know Sarah through her now husband, Tyler, and I was a great friend of Tyler's, and I met Sarah, and immediately upon meeting, we realized that everything that we do is around food adventures. And this was before, obviously, the Kalamata's kitchen dream came to be. So this idea of taking these chef heroes and the people that we look up to as visionary leaders and translating their stories to kids in a way that really nobody else is doing at all is something that we love doing. We also have live events that we host, which are, think of them as food festivals for kids. And they allow kids to go around and try every type of food you can imagine. We always tell people that our superpower is we can get kids to try anything when we host live events. And we have our animated series and the sort of live action and animated world of Kalamata's Kitchen in development, which is something that we're continuing to we're excited about and continue to work through. But that's sort of an overview of all of the different ways that our brand can come to life and hopefully, serve a need, not just in the parents' lives who, Scott, you mentioned it, there's sort of a dual need. It's I'm a parent and I want my kid to try new things. So that's one part of it. But then also for the kid, kids are curious, they're adventurous, they want to explore. So this character that does sort of represent this point of view and represents culture and all of these things, it helps raise more empathetic and compassionate kids. So it's doing both things at the same time while most importantly making it fun for everybody.
Yeah.
Now, you take such intention to your parenting, to the fact, Derek, that you were talking about, I'm going to raise a more empathetic child. I think that's really something special to hold on to, because I think we need more of that in our world. And it's so beautiful. Where did that come from for you to say, hey, I'm going to lead this with this intention that I want my children to be empathetic?
Part of it is the fact that, again, it was born out of an environment. This was really, when you're talking about a need, I had a personal need to escape a lot of toxicity where celebration of cultures and a wide range of different thoughts and ideas was not encouraged at all in my work environment. And what I needed was something that also showed my son that that's not a way to be. That I didn't want him to think that I admired that I looked up to it, that I associated with it in any way. So, and partially I needed to backlash against it to introduce my son to a world where he would recognize that the most beautiful things in life started with something that was once unfamiliar, and that you have to embrace and move toward the unfamiliar, not away from it. And that's really core to what we do. Also, for myself as a child, I never had a chance to travel. For my family's financial circumstances didn't allow us to explore the world or really encourage us to explore even within our own community. So I wanted my son to have a number of the things that I just didn't grow up with exposure to. So I think it was a personal need and a lot of things that I didn't have, but I really wanted to be a gift that I gave to my son.
Would you say that parenthood made you find a different side of bravery in yourself?
Yeah, for sure.
Because what I'm hearing is such a brave move based on this love that you have for your child.
So when you frame it that way, I'll be honest, I don't often think of it really in those terms because it was just like the circumstances that I was in. And I don't know how comfortable I am sometimes saying I'm a brave person. What I would say, though, is that it allowed me to do something that was very uncertain. So starting a business where I spent 17 years in a corporate environment. I had a great title. I had a great career trajectory. I had a great pay grade. I earned great bonuses. Running away from that to start something that nobody else had ever heard of with no experience whatsoever in that space is a scary thing to do. So I think that it's a brave thing to do. But ultimately, for me, whenever I think about it, all I did was flip a switch in my head as to what I was more afraid of. And I realized I was more afraid to stay in that stagnant environment and not know what I was capable of, as opposed to trying something new and learning what I was capable of. I do know for sure that I was terrified that my son would look at me and see what I saw in the people that I was reporting to in my company. I could never live in a world where my son thought that was who his dad was. So I guess in a way, it sort of lit a fire that some may view as courage, and I may view as risk mitigation. I was just terrified that maybe he would think of me as not being someone who would stand up against that.
I love that. I mean, so often we talk to people who have these success stories, and from the outside they just seem easy. Oh, we did this, we had this idea, but I love how you broke down the mindset shift of, it's because what we want to run, we obviously want to have success, but it's like we're almost more driven from the fear. And so you were able to realize the fear is not taking action, is staying where I am. And that's just a beautiful thing that so many people don't realize, that inaction is an action itself. Staying where you are, staying comfortable.
I mean, even in Sarah, I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well, because throughout this entire process, we've always we've done some pretty amazing things. We went from a Kickstarter to competitive bids from the biggest media organizations in the world in like a year. And I remember, actually, I don't think about this often, but early on, I had a professional colleague who I had two ideas that I was thinking about doing. One was Kalamata's Kitchen. The other was a consulting business. And I remember he told me, he's like, yeah, I like both these ideas. You should probably do consulting. This other thing seems a little bit crazy, but we did it. But it's also been, as much as I talk about fear being that sort of initial catalyst, one thing that Sarah and I focus on a lot is the clearest decisions are made as an entrepreneur when you're afraid of nothing. That when you're just mission driven and you're thinking about, what matters most to me, and then all of the other noise kind of gets drowned out. I mean, Sarah, I mean, we face this all the time. It's like, take away anything that you're afraid of, and what would you do that's true to your mission?
Yeah, and I mean, the mission, I think, Derek, you're exactly right. And the mission part of it is so, I think we're somewhat unique in that maybe compared to some other entrepreneurs who have like a product that they're trying to get out there, like our product is a lifestyle. Our product is something that we believe in and live ourselves. Therefore, what we're putting out there isn't quite as like the decisions we have to make are really driven by exactly how we feel about our mission and how much we believe in it. And Derek and I have always 1,000% believed in it. The validation that we get from other people is really important in that too. And so, like, I'm going to say I've rarely felt so super confident about lots of decisions I've made in my life. Like, I've always been like, I guess I'm going to do this next. Okay, let's try this now. Kalamata's Kitchen, as scary as it is I mean, I don't have a business background. Derek and I were both first time business people in a sense, and learning everything as we went. I've rarely felt so confident in doing something though, because I believe so strongly that it's right. And that's what Derek and I think what makes us a little bit unique in the entrepreneurial world is, again, our product isn't like, something that we're packaging and selling. It's a whole idea. And it's in that it's harder in one way because translating that is a big effort. It's not just an immediately gettable thing for everyone. Some people like you get it right away. But it also gives us some flexibility. We've been able to react to a lot of circumstances, changes in various industries, markets, etc., in a way that, and make decisions based on being malleable in a way that a lot of business owners can't, based on their like more tangible costs, et cetera, et cetera.
What do you say to what's your response when there's the parents who are like, this is silly. Like, kids are just going to eat French fries and chicken nuggets.
I'll be honest with you. Like, we don't get that often. Like, the people who are
Okay.
like, there are people who like roll their eyes a little bit and they're like, okay, of course you can say that. Like, it's easy on it's easy for you. You guys, Sarah, you cook, Derek and Sarah, you cook all the time and you have all these, whatever. There are people who just think they can't do it. And to that, I'm always like, look, I'm not, nothing we're telling you is guaranteed to change anybody, like to change anything, but we're just existing as a resource for you. We're here for you for ideas. We're here for you for support. We're here for you. And the funniest thing about it is oftentimes like, once they see it in action, they immediately get it. And here's the funniest part about it. We're talking about teaching open-mindedness in kids. And kids, when they see the characters, when they have the opportunity to make their own decisions, they do it, they have fun with it, they eat all the food, they do the stuff. What we're really doing in a lot of the cases that you're talking about is teaching open-mindedness in the parents. Because even just that concept, right, even just the gut reaction of like, oh, no way, that's just not being open-minded towards the possibility, not a guarantee, but the possibility that your kids will eat something different. And we're just here to like reinforce in as many spaces and as many ways as we can that the possibility exists and we've seen it. I mean, truly at our events, when kids run up and are like, the parents will look at the menu, the passports that we give kids that have the bites that they're going to try in whatever venue we're in. And it'll be anything from chaat to Malaysian curry puffs to smoked trout pate to banana pudding, right? And so you'll have this like whole variety of things, some sweet, most of them savory, and parents will look at it and be like, yeah, there's no way. My kid eats beige food. And we're like, okay, great. Let's just hang back. Let them approach the tables on their own. Let them, just don't color the experience in any way for them and see what happens. The kid exhibits open-mindedness. The parent whose jaw is on the floor as they're going back for a second helping of chat, they're the ones that are being they're the ones that are having the perspective shift. So it's really I'm not trying to be like didactic in any way. I'm not trying to shame anyone. I'm just trying to like offer another opportunity. And I just we just let parents see for themselves. And generally we get really good, like there's some disbelief, but it's always like, holy, like this is amazing. We're lucky that way.
Well, kids, I mean, if you think you're like worldwide, kids eat all sorts of different foods.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's not like a biological thing where they can't eat this because it's too flavorful. It's like they just need to be exposed, and that could be every type of food.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that was actually
Scott. You could join our team with that perspective.
Exactly. That was one of our earliest prompts. Is like somebody told me, I won't say who. It was a media thing. Somebody told me that they were like, oh, we need a different recipe from you because dal, which is like a staple food for billions of people worldwide, is not kid friendly. And we were like, hang on, like I grew up eating it. I was a kid once. Billions of Indian children, like this is their first food. So what are they like if not children? And what does kid friendly really mean? And it led us down a really interesting path that we've been really exploring in a number of different ways, particularly on our social media, of like, of course it's kid friendly. If a kid eats it, then of course it's kid friendly. There's no other definition needed.
I mean, I know we've kind of taken the try to get her exposed to as many things as possible. And, one thing that comes to mind is early on, Collette had her exposed to sardines, mm-hmm. which most people think yes. You're giving a kid sardines. And it's it was like one of her first foods, stinky cheeses, mm-hmm. like the stinkiest of all. And we kind of have it's agreement. Like you can taste it. And if you really don't like it, you can spit it out. So she always knows all right, I'm just tasting it. And so many times she's like, oh, I like it. Now it's hilarious because she's like, can I have Gouda cheese? She wants Gouda, not like a mozzarella stick. I'm like, oh, that's great. We're making some progress.
My girl.
You're doing a great job. Derek has an anchovy story.
Well, this is why I think we're so attracted to your point of view, because I think that what's common among, sort of the content that you share and your point of view and the way that you live life and the way that we live life is this idea that our American culture on some things is kind of backwards. Our American food culture, when it comes to what is kid friendly, is not met with the way that the rest of the world acts. And so my son loves anchovies and boquerones. And when we order it, if we order anchovy toast at a restaurant, the server will bring it over and they'll put it on the table. My son will reach over and grab the anchovy and the server will laugh because they think he's taking it off to eat the toast. But what he's doing is taking it off to just eat the anchovy and not eat the toast. And it's because it's delicious and it's salty and it's umami and it's all these things that human beings enjoy. There's no reason why he wouldn't enjoy it. In fact, kids like being treated like grown-ups. We know this. We know kids like being treated like grown-ups, yet when it comes to food, we treat them like little kids, which they don't like. So that's what we sort of bet on. But I think that, when we take a look at how the rest of the world sort of approaches some of these things and we look at the way that our American culture does, to us, that's huge opportunity. It's huge opportunity to help parents, to get kids excited, and also it's a market opportunity because no one solved this problem, and that's what we're here to do.
What are some simple tips that you can give to parents who are listening, who are like, my kid's not going to eat it? What are some things that, besides, going to one of the events, what could they do to kind of get their kid to try some anchovies?
I mean,
or something simpler.
I think it's just look at your rotation, right? Look at the rotation of what you regularly cook for your kids or what you eat when you're out and see if there's a way to kind of gently twist it in some way, right? A lot of times we tell people, get a really cool spice mix or furikake or something like that and sprinkle it on your popcorn. Put it on, and then like see if there's different ways that you could, like, kids love seaweed snacks, right? Like a lot of kids love seaweed snacks. But that's a thing that like I don't even remember seeing when I was a kid. So we do know that palates change and tastes change, and that might be different from what their parents grew up eating. But that's a really good example of a snack that like can be sort of a gateway into other things, including having seaweed in your rice and then maybe some different kinds of sushi or whatever it is. And, you can start to introduce spices and flavorings into things that they already love. There's also just the idea of like modeling the behavior you really want to see in your kids. Like if you're always like, I think being honest with ourselves about what we're consuming in front of them, with them, when we're hiding from them, like we default to a lot of the same things too. And it's like, okay, actually, why don't we all go out and try something new together? Kids, I think, really enjoy not being the only ones being taught, right? And so like when they see their parents also being like, you know what? I've actually never had Ethiopian food. Let's all go try it together. We're going to get to eat with our hands. I've never done that. I don't know what this is, but I want to taste it. That kind of modeling behavior is really, really powerful. And again, it's not didactic. Kids can smell a lesson coming from a mile away. That's often why, and then the other thing is like, our characters are helpful that way, right? Like it's someone that's not your parent doing it's modeling behavior, but it's coming from a character and a friend instead of like a parent being like, you should eat that vegetable. That really helps. So like coming at it sideways of being like, well, your friend Kalamata did it. That hilarious alligator al dente ate it in one chomp. Like, don't you want to see what that's all about? That kind of stuff helps. And then if we, providing one other tool, I would say our taste bud pledge is something that we've heard from a lot of parents, has resonated with a lot of kids, and has gotten more than one first food bite, like try, like down into a kid.
Now tell me about the taste bud pledge.
Go for it, Derek.
I remember the first time I heard the Taste Bud Pledge. So we've been lucky to work with an immensely talented team in launching what we launched. And it started with Sarah and I, but what we learned was people really believed in it and wanted to be a part of it. And we were working with a really talented writer who, inspired by the book series, came up with this idea of writing sort of sort of like a manifesto or words that Kalamata and al dente would live by. And she called it the Taste Bud Pledge, which is, I promise to keep my mind open and my fork ready, to try each new food at least 2 times, and to share what's on my plate when someone doesn't have enough. And and what you just did on your face, I could act out what people do when we read it. They start and they think it's cute and they think it's funny, and then it hits them. And our values for our brand are being curious, courageous, and compassionate. And in that one sentence, we capture all 3 of those values. I remember the first time I heard it, and the person sent it to me, and she said, I don't really know what I think about it. And it was at a time when we were unsure as to, are we really going to take on this risk? And I remember reading it and saying to myself, I would bet my house on that idea. And then I did.
Wow. Elaborate a little bit more on that.
Well, again, I mean, it's just, you're taking it when you're trying to launch a media brand. It's 2 people who, I came from brand and marketing leadership in the flooring industry. Sarah came from, by the way, she didn't give herself full credit. She was an advanced sommelier in the Court of Master Sommeliers at Le Bernardin in New York. So Sarah was working at the very height of fine dining. And both of us had really positive career trajectories in a place that we just didn't think was right for us long term. But there was stability in that. And when you decide that you're going to go start something, which is my family, I was not born in a family of entrepreneurs. Sarah wasn't either. And, you take on financial risk, and you take on in a number of different ways. So when you are doing that, it can be scary. And you need the thing that tells you. I've just learned that I always tell entrepreneurs, some things are a win because you did it. There's no risk because you won because you did it. You just have to understand that. So when, you take out a loan collateralized against your house for something you believe in, you say, whatever happens, happens, but I won because I did it. And because my son got to see it, and because I got to work with this team, and because we know that it's going to be successful in a way that we measure as success. And then anything that happens from there is great. So, but when you get those signals, like an email from a person who's as talented as this writer was, capturing what you stand for in one sentence and knowing that that's the thing, it makes that's what makes it a win upon doing it. So you say, all right, I'm willing to make this gamble.
Was there any test before taking these big leaps? Was there any way to test the market during this journey?
The Kickstarter.
Yeah.
I would say the Kickstarter was sort of like our first. A lot of people launch a Kickstarter to fund a business. We had made the commitment to fund the aspects of the business behind the Kickstarter, but we thought that it would be a great way for us to identify if there would be early adopters, what the market looked like, what it would attract. It was a way for us it was a platform for us to put ourselves out there and gain data and figure out if we wanted to continue to double and triple down on the concept. And at the time we funded in 48 hours. At the time, we were out of more than 8,000 children's publishing projects launched on Kickstarter, we were in the top 40. So the top, like half of 1%. And we started to get interest from people that we didn't know, including brands and things like that pretty immediately because nobody had seen this kid's food character. I think that was sort of our way of like testing it and seeing what people thought.
So you had in a sense, a soft investment, and then you kind of confirmed it, and then you kind of went all in.
Yeah,
I think that's right.
I think that's accurate. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That story.
I mean, I feel like we hear so often, like, "Oh, I have a great idea for a kid's book," but that the ability to take action is what sets you apart. And when it came to publishing, how did that all work from concept to Kickstarter to actual publishing?
Well,
take me through that process.
Yeah, I mean, to your point about great ideas for kids' books, I believe that there are lots of people who have great ideas for kids' books, and I genuinely believe that. And I wish that more of them could be really good, meaningful books. And it's just publishing is really, really hard to break into. And one of the things that I think, so we knew, again, we knew we wanted to have a business around this. And so obviously the characters exist for the kids to love them. We knew that storytelling was going to be the heart of it. But we built the business around it in a way that not a lot of other properties can, right? There's a great idea for a book, and then maybe it's just a book, but we always knew that there would be more around it. So that's one thing that I think put us in the position and the mindset to do what we did in order to achieve the publishing goals and kind of marketing goals that we wanted to hit. So the way we did that was we self-funded and kickstarted the first 3 books. We self-published 3 of them. And then we took that package, let's call it, out through an agency. We were lucky enough to be represented by CAA. And even that, I mean, that was like, when our agents saw the package that we put together, they were like, "What? These are amazing. These are gorgeous. Like, how did you do this?" And we had made the bet on, if we made those self-published books look like as gorgeous, if not more, than some traditionally published books, people would be interested. And we were right about that. And so we took that out. They saw the kind of potential around the business surrounding the property and the stories themselves. And we had, as Derek was saying earlier, competitive bids from multiple publishing houses as a result of it. Now that's I would say, really uncommon trajectory. And I do for publishing. And I do think it's because we had, again, never planned for it to like start with the book and then grow from there. We were like, we're going to do 4 things at one time. And that way, when we got into those conversations with publishing, we also managed to retain our ownership of the IP in a more favorable percentage, because we had these other things going that we were like, well, we're also doing these production deals, so we can't actually part with this, so we did structure it that way from the beginning, which is uncommon. And also, like, I don't know, knowing what we know now, like, we just didn't know what we couldn't do. Right. So there was nobody. It was
kind of insane. Yeah.
It was an insane thing to do, but like, we didn't know that we shouldn't or couldn't, and shouldn't isn't even the right word, because it worked out well for us, but it was crazy. It was a crazy thing to do. I don't necessarily encourage it.
Yeah, to create the Food Network Mickey Mouse, and people are like, "No, you can't do that." It's like we just did. So
I
there we
mean,
go. I love
yeah,
it.
we just got, it was like make it till you make it was kind of our mantra for a little while there.
I also find that what you do is so inspiring for the whole family and the parents because oftentimes we're told so many things end when parenthood begins, right? Like, oh, well, you're only going to go to Chuck E. Cheese or Fuddruckers, and no disrespect to those, but like some parents want to travel and introduce their kids to different flavors and their own passions. And so I find what you do is also really inspiring to the parents. Myself included. Have you found?
Do you know anyone like that?
Yeah.
Have you found, because you both travel with your kids, any amazing kids menus around the world?
Oh,
Well, first of all, let me just say quick, you guys are so inspirational for us. I mean, you're doing the same thing, right?
Yes.
Like you live this aspirational life, I think, for a lot of parents who are like, wait, I can do that? Like I can take my kid there? What you do, and I think what we're trying to do as well, is just kind of give parents like a soft permission to be like, remember that you're a human being too, and you get to live the life you want within, you know, within your own your self-imposed parameters with your family, if that's what you want to do. So
We've
just
made
to say, I
mistakes,
want
though.
to, yeah, of course,
Of
everybody
course.
does. It's like, and we don't have a blueprint for it. Like what's we're trying to create it for other people, right? Like by example, showing mistakes oftentimes is like just as valuable to people. You know, like I think I've learned everything that I did for my son on his first flight, I got from your site. Just to say, just from your content.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
But Derek,
I can
you hit
remember we
something
took her. We took her to like it wasn't a Michelin star, but it was like almost a Michelin star restaurant. And we weren't really prepared. It was in France. We walked in and it was whisper quiet. And she was she one maybe one.
She was 15 months. Yeah.
She was 15 months, and we kind of panicked. And they took care of us. They gave her a high chair, and we're like, oh, what are we gonna do? And so it was one of those moments where like, I guess we're gonna be pulling the screen out for her so she can stay, because it wasn't even like a place where you could like walk around.
Right.
We ended up, she did fine. It was like we had our meal, we'd pick her up, take her outside for a little bit. You know, we made a little bit of noise, but it was like, okay, we need to be a little bit more careful and like thoughtful. But we've also taken her to other Michelin star restaurants. Not saying you should take kids all to Michelin star restaurants, but that's kind of one of those spots where parents might think, if they love fine dining, they might think, oh, we're never going to do this. We're only going to do Chuck E. Cheese and Fuddruckers. And it's like, no, you can. You just may have to do it a little differently.
And I think it's also like getting comfortable with that uncomfortable feeling that you're exhibiting, right? Like we walked in and we had that oh shit moment of like,
Because we had no toys. We didn't have anything. Like,
we're
we
not
We
prepared.
weren't prepared. Yeah.
But it's also our first time as parents. You know, it's her first time as a kid and it's our first time as parents, and we're trying to figure it out, and we're going to make some mistakes. And yes, I think, but it's funny because I see that moment as like such a time of growth. It was a 2 Michelin star chef that opened up a different restaurant in the Alsace region of France.
Oh.
And looking back, I'm kind of like, go us for trying,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Like,
Definitely.
we didn't make a ruckus. Like we tried. It wasn't the Michelin star meals of like the past where we would, you know, be able to open up a bottle of wine and have a conversation. There were no conversations, but we tried things.
And then in Moustier, we did very similar for my
Yes.
birthday. And what worked for us was we kind of prepped her. We're like, we're going to go out to dinner, and it's going to be a movie night. And so like we knew we had some things. I think we had some books for her to color, some toys and whatnot. So we planned, like, we knew is like there's going to be some entertainment, meaning like toys and us engaging. And then at some point, the screen's going to come out. You're going to watch a movie while we kind of have a little meal, and then we'll go explore. And it was a great experience because there was a farm there, so she got to like see the animals. And I remember this place was amazing because they knew right away. They're like, "Would you like her meal first? We know she probably needs to eat." And it was like, "Yes." And they brought out the best chicken I've ever had.
I thought her meal was my favorite of all of the tasting menu that we had.
And so it
was on a silver platter.
They like came out and, you know, like I don't know what you would call it, but you know, they cut it like at the table and portioned it for her, and it was a
So
great
cute.
experience for both of us. And so
Yeah, I think that exposure, I think what we're talking about here is so important because you have to expose them. How will they ever know, right? How will a kid know how to behave on a flight? How will a kid know what something tastes like?
Right.
Unless they're
Yep.
exposed to it multiple times over.
Yeah.
And it might not work out as you
And
plan.
they will cry.
And yeah, there will be tears. There will be, I don't like it. How long till we get there?
I want to go home.
Because kids are kids. But I think like we have to expose them. I mean, if we're going to expose them to chicken nuggets, the least we can do is also expose them to these awesome experiences in addition.
Yeah, we agree with all of that.
Well, I think one of the things that you highlighted there too, to us, the key is if the people who are running the restaurant want kids there. I mean, what I know for sure is that airlines want kids on planes. I personally don't have a lot of patience for the, oh my God, there's a kid crying on my airplane person. It's like, get over it. Okay. Like you were a kid, the kid's traveling. It's uncomfortable for the kid. It's the way of the world, and kind of get over yourself. You know, that we're on a plane and there's going to be kids there. You know, as far as in restaurants, if the person who owns the restaurant, the manager of the restaurant, if they want kids and families to be a part of their audience, that's what we're trying to connect people to. So for example, we have our digital platform, the Taste Bud Travel Guide, and it's all about like identifying those officially kid-friendly destinations where parents want to go, and sometimes they're not 100% sure if they're going to be fully welcomed with a stroller. And one example that comes to mind, we always say our favorite kids menus are the grown-up menus because, again, kids like being treated like grown-ups. And a lot of the places we go specifically don't create a kids menu. They do variations off of their food from the adult menu for kids. There's a restaurant in Boston on the South End called Copa. And one time I was going to pick up my wife, Jennifer, from a business trip. And Henry was probably 4 years old at the time. We had come from the playground to this, James Beard recognized bistro in the South End of Boston. And Henry went in wearing a Jurassic Park t-shirt, gym shorts, and 2 different sneakers on his feet. And they treated him like he was the most important person in the place. And he tried tuna crudo, and we ate pizza. And it's just all about like the kid loves being treated like a VIP. And I don't want to go to a place with my son that we're not a part of their audience. I totally get it. That's a decision that you make. I don't feel bad about that at all. What I do want to go to is the places that truly do want us there. And whether that is a food truck in Seattle, Washington, or fine dining in the Alsace region of France, I'm up for all of it.
Yeah, I mean that's a big part of what we're doing with that platform is like helping parents identify those places, because the restaurants, there's so many restaurants that I think like we live in a really great time right now for the small independent chef driven restaurant. It's hard for them to exist, but like with mindful, interaction from a customer perspective, like we can support these awesome people too. And this is a time when there's tons of talent, tons of amazing opportunities to have like fine dining quality level food without some of the strictures of like a tombstone quiet dining room and whatever. It's like those opportunities exist, but like oftentimes restaurants are stretched so thin that they don't have the time or resources necessary to market specifically to a family audience, right? They're doing the kind of PR and marketing that just what gets them out to the demo a younger moneyed demo generally, right? But what we do is we go directly to the chef, directly to the owners, and we say, listen, this is what we do. Do you want a family audience to come here? You can say no. We're not going to be offended. You tell us and we'll do that for you. We'll put you out there. We'll tell your stories. We'll elevate your platforms. And if you go to our site and look, you can see the kinds of restaurants that are like, hell yeah, we want we want kids to come here. We want their parents to come here. Here's a couple things that we know about a family audience from that makes it really positive for restaurants. We go in early, generally at hours when tables need to be filled. We're in and out in under your average turn time. If there's a mess, we tip like crazy to make up for it. And if we are welcomed and made to feel good about the experience, eat and drink the food we want, don't feel like assholes for bringing our kids there or strollers or whatever, we're loyal. We will come back time and time again. That's a customer base that restaurants want, and parents like wish they knew where they could go. We're bridging that gap for the restaurant and for the guest.
That's a good point, because if you think about, you have the dink that they're good, dual income, no kids. Those people are probably looking for the next hottest restaurant,
Yeah.
whereas the parents are like, that was a good experience. We want to go out to eat. We know what's on the menu. We're already stressed about enough things with our kids. We don't want to have to stress about the
Right.
restaurant. We're going back, and we're going back over and over again.
100%.
That's really.
That's such a gift for parents. So thank you for creating that.
Do you guys have any, being the food lovers that you are, have any go-to things that you like to make at home, or tricks for your own kids that you're like proud of? Like, oh, I snuck in this veggie, or like I got them to eat this. What are some moments of just these are things that I've been able to learn and do with my kids?
Well, I'll share real quickly. Our one thing that Sarah and I are pretty consistent on is we're less the sneaking stuff in, approach, and more the getting you excited to try it approach, and recognizing, and we always say that, there's nothing in the world more curious than a kid. I joke around that my kid will be walking through an airport when he was like 3 years old and try to get gum off the floor to put in his mouth. Why would I think that he wouldn't eat like cauliflower? Right. So, that's sort of like not inhibiting, but playing into his curiosity and his sense of adventure. Our favorite dish, I do most of the cooking at home, but my wife, when she cooks, typically cooks vegetarian. And we do this cauliflower shawarma that is, of all the things that I cook, so I say that probably of our 10 favorite dishes, like 7 of them are mine, but 3 of our favorite 4 are my wife's. So I'm representing the bottom of the top 10. But this cauliflower shawarma, my son absolutely loves. He helps us make it, which is another important. When I say helps us make it, it's not like he's doing knife work. He's helping us mix the things up and everything like that. It makes him involved in the process. And just by entering it through the point of, you never know if the next thing you try might be the best thing you've ever tried. That's what gets him excited. And this cauliflower shawarma, it's delicious. It has lemon and honey and cumin and garlic. And then we have this tahini dressing that we do with it. And it's his favorite thing in the world. So it's just a matter of like playing into that. The next thing you try might be your favorite food that you've ever had, and getting him open-minded enough to try it. And I think the cauliflower shawarma is one that people are surprised by. They're like, I can't believe that your son's favorite dish is cauliflower shawarma. And in a way, I'm like, I can't believe that you would think that a kid wouldn't love something that delicious. It's great.
And I mean, you guys eat with him, right? Like, I think that's a big part of it, is like, you guys eat the same food. I mean, he sees you loving it, and he loves it. And our kids are at different ages, right? So like, I think explaining to an older kid like Henry, I mean, really from like, I would say 5 up, that idea of like, you didn't know your favorite food was your favorite food until you tried it. So what about this one? Like, they get it. My son is a toddler, right? He's not going to get concepts yet, but he gets delicious, right? Like, he understands when things taste good, and he understands. I've always had him smell things with me. So every time I peeled an orange, I'd smell it, and then I'd hand him the peel, and he'd smell it while I finished. And he does it now on his own, and he does that with everything, whether it's a strawberry or in our garden, he'll pick leaves like from the rosemary or whatever, and he always smells it first, which I think is really cool, because then if I cook with any of those things, even if he doesn't immediately identify it, you're building that connection in your brain, whether you can put words to it or not. So yeah, to Derek's point, like that, those little bits of interaction, it's not cooking. He's not cooking anything. He's 18 months old, but he's interacting with the thing in the way that he can. He smells every spice in the bottle before I put it on anything. My go-tos with him, like, we always have different food. He does eat what we eat, and also the only alternatives I ever have are like, I always have roasted sweet potatoes in the fridge, and I always will make him an egg if he like absolutely will not eat what we're eating. But the egg is, I'm so proud of this. Like, I seriously think they're like the best eggs I've never made for myself. Every time I eat them, I'm like, why don't I make these for myself? But I do like brown butter. I do a teeny little bit of rice vinegar and low sodium soy sauce in the egg itself. Pour it in, let it set on the bottom, sprinkle furikake seasoning all over it, and then flip it and kind of just cut it up into omelet pieces for him. He houses it. And do like cherry tomatoes with the furikake on it as well. And then the sweet potatoes, he gets to, I give him an option. He gets like 3 different spice blends. There's a cumin heavy Mexican fiesta blend, a 5-spice blend, and something I can't remember right now. Oh, it's a Japanese curry powder blend. and he gets to pick which one goes on his sweet potato chunks, and he pours the olive oil. He's terrible at it. He does. It's so messy. I don't. You can leave that part out if you make yourself some mess. But I allow it for him. He sprinkles the spice in. He stirs it. He gets very angry when I put it in the oven, but he's very excited when it comes out and he eats it. So those little steps of involvement, letting him pick, letting him stir, whatever. I find that really really helps. And also the food's seasoned. Like, I'm not trying to give him anything I wouldn't eat myself. I don't give him plain steamed broccoli. It has butter and garlic and lemon on it. It has, it's make it taste good. And
what are some of the? I mean, I love all the stuff you just said because I know we do some of those things. We definitely try to involve her with the cooking and the smelling, and actually one of the cutest memories I have is her like smelling flowers. Her like little nose scrunch she used to do, and like she still does it somewhat to this day. But what are some of the like what would be like your go-to? Because you mentioned some spices that you had, some like mixtures. Is there a certain brand or company that you have for those? Because I know I have one, but it's like basically just like a Mexican seasoning. So I'm looking for other ones that would be.
I use a couple different ones. I love the blends from Spicewalla. I love Burlap and Barrel. Diaspora just has like really amazing like whole spices that I use for, especially for my Indian cooking. But for the blends, I really love Burlap and Barrel and Spicewalla. Burlap and Barrel has a ton of like chef collaborations too. So you get really, really cool things. It's just like the work's done for you. Like I used to be the kind of person who would toast and grind and blend all my own seasonings. And now I'm like, I can't, I don't have it right now. So they're all delicious. I think everything's like on sale right now because of tariffs. So like go do that. Stock up. Derek, am I missing anyone? We work with a bunch of spice companies. Oh, Le Bois.
We worked with Le Bois in Le Bois, New York. Yeah. So
Blends
I think you've hit all of them. I mean,
Yeah.
there's, good ingredients, good spices. To Sarah's point, I mean, Henry at this point, when we'll smell like good peppercorns, like they smell amazing and it gets him so excited to try whatever that's going into. I think that people don't really recognize what a difference things like really good peppercorns, make, how it makes a difference. And when I say really good, I mean like fresh and things like that. They don't all need to be single origin spices for them to be like fresh and good and things like that. And it really does like change the way when you smell them and it smells like, tropical fruit and things like that, then it's going to get you more excited about what you're about to try. So I think that those are the tips on the spices. By the way, I did think of a tip though too for the restaurant that I think that you're going to be coming into as your daughter gets a little bit older. Is our go-to move to keep Henry's attention. He's almost 11, and this has been working since he was like 6. Is we don't go anywhere without Uno. Uno
okay.
There are other games that we use, but we always travel. He has Uno in his backpack, and we've talked about doing a segment called Places We've Played Uno, because again, it ranges from like food trucks to on beaches to, Michelin star restaurants. And every time we do it, people crack up. So like when we were in Paris, we went to a place that it's a restaurant pub, but it was also just recognized as one of the top 50 cocktail bars in the world. And it's someplace that you would just go to. And here we are at this place that's recognized as one of the best cocktail bars in the world. And we're playing Uno with our son at the table. And the servers think it's awesome. They're like, I wish I was playing with you. And it's always well received. It doesn't take up a lot of space. It's not loud, any of those things. But Uno and things like it are just great ways for everybody to have fun and stay engaged and to stay off of devices. He likes it better than being on a device. So that's sort of one of our silver bullet tricks is games like that can fit into a backpack and you can take just about anywhere.
But also like be kind. We also want to say like parents, be kind to yourself. If defaulting to the device is like what you need to do to finish your meal, do it. But Una's great in the meantime.
It's not our first choice, but it's there.
Do it.
I mean, we've had dinners where you walk in and like the second you walk in, you're just like, I don't know what's going on. And you're like, we need to eat. And here's the screen. And then we've had meals. We had a 3+ hour meal in Florence. And we had prepped for it. So we had some little toys and trinkets and like there were little stickers. I think she played with those. Obviously, every kid's different. There's girl energy, boy energy. But it was like almost 3 hours before finally she was like, I'm bored.
And we're like, wow, that's amazing. And our friends that we were with were actually pregnant with their first. And they were like, oh, this is amazing. Like, is this what we have to look forward to? And I was like, listen, like, I think what we're hearing here is that you need to be prepared when you go out to dinner with kids. We went to Flying Tiger, that little, it's like a Danish dollar store for kids.
Yeah.
And picked up a bunch of like sticker things and just little toys to keep her occupied. And I think as she gets older too, it's engaging with her. It's having these things prepared. And still, I think, you know, it's such a gift that our kids want to be present with us, want to bond with us. And so if we can show up for them that way and be physically there and mentally there for them while we're experiencing these new things, new flavors, new tastes, and new places, oftentimes with us, like that, they're only this little for so long and they're only that engaged with us for so long. Like, take advantage of it. Like, what a gift to bond with your kids over food or travel or whatever your passion is.
And I think just how you said, like, they see what you're doing. I mean, obviously the screens, they have to be part of the topic. Like, if you sit down at a table and then you're just on your phone while you're like, hey, you need to read a book or play with your toys. Like, well, when am I going to get my phone type of thing? But if we try, obviously it's like be present, put it down, try to engage ourselves. Like if it's bringing a book or whatever to then engage with her. And so I think you just have to keep that in mind that of all the stuff they're watching, they're listening at all the time.
They want to be like
Scott,
us.
real quick too, something that I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Derek.
Well, I was just, something, it reminds me of something that you said earlier, Scott, which was that what I just believe and what I learned about my son very early on is that he wants to love things that I love. There's a reason why we grow up and now we hear the music our parents played when we were young and it's so nostalgic and we have affection for it. And there's a reason why kids don't come out of the womb being like Philadelphia Eagles fans, but somehow they figure out a way to be that is because that's what the family loves. And if you're a person who loves travel and food experiences and going on hikes and all of these things, your kid is going to want to love it. What they need is a thing that allows it to be theirs. And that's what we've seen our brand as an opportunity to create, which is if I love baseball, my son can get a glove, we can go to the game and there's a mascot and there's something for it in him. Something in it for him. But with food, often there isn't. So if the thing can be the characters in the book and it can be them ordering their own food and it can be the game of Uno that you play when you go to the restaurant, all of those different things, it's just a way for you to meet them where they are. It's just like anybody else in the world. They're just younger, so if you can find that way to give them something in it that they can call theirs, that's the trick. And that's what we're trying to unlock.
I love it. That's so insightful and so true that even as parents, we kind of forget that. And it's like when you have that in the back of your mind, when they're maybe not interested or they're getting frustrated, it's like, oh yeah, like they need something too. Like even during travels, we tell people like, when they're younger and they're a potato, you can take them wherever because they don't have opinions. But then when they start to get older, you'll figure out like, oh, they don't like museums. We might need to stop off at a park where they can go play before we go to the next cafe that we want to go to and vice versa.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Sarah, you were going to say something before.
I was going to say what Derek was saying about them wanting to, we're on the same page. Yeah. I was just going to say that they want to love what we love. And I love that. Currently I'm seeing that as like, what a great honor it is to like get to teach my kid about this stuff. He seems really happy about it. Like, I'm sure there's a point where he's going to be like, oh, whatever, I have to anticipate that he's not always going to want to make me giggle and smile with everything. But currently that's what he likes to do. And this is him eating, makes me laugh and he keeps doing it. So I'm like, this is great. It's great. It feels like it's working out for all of us.
Oh, and the last time we were on a Zoom, he was just a little nugget.
He was. That's right. He was so teeny.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is a great eater, as we've been saying, so he is no longer teeny.
Well, I think about how your training and profession as a sommelier. And then I think of you just introducing all of the scents to your 18-month-old of like, do you smell the fresh ground pepper and the
fresh cut grass on a fall day?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's funny because I remember
Love
people always asking like, "Oh, are you just like a great taster or great smeller?" And it's like, I don't think so. I don't think I have like a special nose or a special like mouth. I think it's that I remember I from an early age decided that smells and tastes were things that I really liked. So I just happened to remember them. And then I always ask people, well, when was the last time that you bit into a piece of fruit and you smelled it before or after you did it? Or did you just eat the strawberry? And they're like, I think I just ate the strawberry. And it's like, even just thinking about it, like that, does that mean, anyway, that's a whole different topic, but it's not even like, it's not even about like making him remember something. It's just about getting him into the habit of like, if you engage your senses in anything you're doing, it's going to be a richer experience. And so like to stop to smell something or to crush an herb or to like really look at something before you devour it or like feel it in your hand. I love that he eats with his hands still. Like he has utensils. I'm not making him use them. He loves squishing things. He loves rubbing them. He unfortunately is starting to love throwing them. But whatever, it's sensory. And the more we can, I do think professionally, I learned to engage my senses in a very helpful way. It makes my life richer. And I do enjoy encouraging that in him and frankly in every kid that we interact with. I remember teaching Henry
can I tell a story? I want to tell a story about this. Like, among other things, when you talk about something as a win for doing it, launching a business with Sarah is a win for doing it because, I always tell people that Sarah, if I needed brain surgery and my life depended on it, I'd be like, Sarah, go learn how to do it because I trust you more than I trust like. And Sarah has the capacity to learn anything. No one learns faster. And then you think about like the exposure of your child to the entrepreneurial experience and I have photos like back to when Henry was really small of him interacting with Sarah and inspiring him to want to taste things. And I have pictures at Maison Premiere of them, like Sarah putting in something in front of him to smell. And this is this legendary, Brooklyn destination. But it also reminds me, bringing it full circle, our connectivity with what you and Scott and Collette do is I got introduced to you through my research into a trip to France. So when we were going to Bordeaux and Saint-Emilion, we were looking for where we should go. And I just loved your content. And this is, I think, before I knew that you had a child. At that time, you didn't have a child when you created that video. But this is going to sound like it's bougie. Sarah and I talk about this all the time. We're lucky to be able to have many of the experiences that we do. And these experiences can happen at a Trader Joe's. They do not need to be fancy by any means. It just so happens that we're fortunate that we can do it. And we never take it for granted. But we brought him to a vineyard in Sauternes. And when Jen and I were doing the tasting, they arranged a tasting for Henry of non-alcohol beverages. And they allowed him to sort of go through and talk about the flavors that he was tasting. And my son, I believe, has a better sense of taste than I do. And this goes back to when he was very little and convinced me that he actually could tell the difference between the flavor of a yellow pepper and a red pepper, and proved it when he was like 3 years old. And I couldn't believe it. But here he was tasting these juices in the Sauternes region, and they were kind of like blown away because he was describing the flavors that he tasted, and they were super descriptive. But also, it's about having that vocabulary because it's not fancy for a kid to say wet rocks and fresh cut grass. That's not a fancy thing. We go to schools and hear kids describe those things regardless of where they've been in the world. And it's just a matter of tapping into that, making it fun and helping them understand that vocabulary, you can't be wrong. There's no wrong in describing what you taste and what you smell. And so Sarah, I think, has inspired that in my son. And it's just a really cool thing to see when it sort of comes to life.
I mean, it's kind of like language, basically. The language skills of just being able to do that with tapping it into the smells and the tastes.
And self-discovery. And like also the ability to go to find these places that encourage that in children.
Yes. But this goes back also to the open-mindedness of the parents, right? Because if you think about it, like this is an experience that I used to have as a wine professional all the time, as people were, adults are self-conscious about being wrong. So wine descriptors are a great example of this. Like you read,
Yeah.
everybody's like, oh, if I don't smell a apricot or whatever, like I'm wrong, I don't get wine. That's not true. That's bullshit. That's something that like marketing has convinced people that there's an elitism around it, and I really did my a lot of work to try and dispel that. What Derek said is right. What you taste, smell, and feel about anything that you're consuming is right for you. And if we can speak descriptively, that could mean memories too. By the way, like I remember someone telling me that a certain wine felt like it felt to walk into his grandma's kitchen. And I was like, that's amazing. And like, what does that mean? It means it was warm and spicy and like whatever. It gives you anticipation. Those are the kinds of language skills that I want to pull out of people like adults when they're talking about food and bev, because kids don't actually have those inhibitions unless we create them in them. They'll tell you a story about everything they smell and taste if you let them. And I really would love for like adults in general to stop stopping them, right, from doing that. Let them talk about how something tastes like sunshine. Like, what does sunshine taste like? I don't know. You know, though, right? Like, you know what they mean. That's a really good descriptor. So, like, I don't know. It's another fun layer of like watching parents get to live through their kids' imaginations again and freeing up their own food and drink experiences.
I love it.
Oh, it makes me excited to have dinner with her tonight and ask some fun questions.
What does it taste like? Yeah, that'd be a good question.
Because she's such a storyteller.
I
I feel like she
love
tells
to
me
hear the
bedtime
answers.
stories.
Yeah, I can't. Actually, I will. I'm gonna see what she says.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's had some interesting descriptions about that, but I'm trying to think of food. I can't think of any right now. Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Well, thank you so much, Derek and Sarah. Really appreciate the time. Where can everybody find you guys and or Kalamata Kitchen?
Well, you can visit our
You can
website
find
for
us
sure.
on-
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Derek.
We're going to say the same thing. We could probably say it in unison. You know, our website, kalamataskitchen.com, our travel guide is tastebytravelguide.com. You can visit us at those names on Instagram. You can stay tuned for live events that we're doing. You can buy our books wherever books are sold, and stay tuned also for the animated and live action content that we're launching. And in addition, as I say all that, sincerely, we are super appreciative for the sort of the way that you are raising your child and the way that you're using as an example for the rest of us. We're so inspired by all of it and grateful for the fact that you put it out into the world. And I always are excited to see you all. And we thank you for letting us join this.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you. That's very kind. And when it comes to the live events, where can people find those?
We'll post them on our social media. So follow us on Instagram to stay up to date. We have some exciting things coming up around live events because we know, A, they're our favorite thing to do, and B, we know that it's really it's where we get to do what we love doing most, which is, interacting with families and helping them, get kids to try new things. So I think we're going to have some fun announcements coming up around some events that we'll be hosting.
Oh, great. We look forward to it.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you're learning from and or enjoying this podcast, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram and TikTok. These are great free ways to support this podcast. Also, please subscribe to this podcast on both Spotify and Apple. On both of those platforms, you can leave us up to a 5-star review, which would help us out greatly. Please also check out the sponsors mentioned in today's episode. That's the best way to support this show. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, please put those in the comment sections in YouTube. And yes, we do read all the comments.